This episode is brought to you by Metal Central.
Metal Central, located in Jasper, is your source for metal roofing that lasts a lifetime. Metal Central also offers metal building packages, custom trim, doors, and more to complete any job. Call Metal Central for a quote today. 205-385-7575. That's 205-385-7575.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another bonus episode of the Game Managers Podcast, where we talk Alabama and Auburn and SEC football every week. My name is Nick Norris. I'm a sports writer for a number of websites and publications, and with me, as always, are my great friends, Auburn fan Justin Knight.
How's it going, guys?
And Alabama fan Aaron Patterson.
Hello.
Just right off the top, I'm still a little sick, so if I sound bad, that's why. We didn't have an episode last Sunday, because I was a little under the weather.
Yeah, you sound like doo-doo.
Well, if anything, you jinxed us, because at the end of the episode before, I was like, no, we'll definitely do an episode next week. I'll get back from the mountains.
Yeah, that
in time.
didn't happen.
Yeah,
we were still planning to.
Yeah, even when I was sick, I was planning to, and then Justin was like, no, we're not doing it.
I mean, I convinced, because we got this episode, and then another episode this weekend, so rest the voice.
Yeah, we're good. People don't want to lison to us anyways.
No, so it doesn't really matter.
That's very fair.
All right, well, this is going to be a little heavy for a bonus episode because we're going to break down Alabama LSU with former Alabama receiver Tyrone Prothro, and we're also going to talk about a little bit about Auburn, Ole Miss, and a lot about the college football playoffs. So a little bit longer, but that's okay, and we're just going to hop right into it with some news. Guys, how do you think Willie Taggart's doing this morning?
He ain't getting a job anywhere else. Did you know his buyout was $17 million?
Yeah,
can you
that's
believe?
What I was gonna say. I don't think he's too worried.
No.
Oh no, he's not worried.
He might be a little down in the dumps after such a terrible,
awful
last
horrendous.
Couple of years. But he's doing pretty all right.
Do you blame him for that though, or is that just the state of Florida State at that point?
That's a great question because I really don't know. That's one of those things I think you have to be involved because it was such on. I mean, it wasn't. Never mind. It wasn't that great when Jimbo left, but it wasn't that bad. Like they had just won a national championship not too long ago.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm gonna go with. Is a little bit of both. But I mean, it had to have been more on him because you would think that the people making the decisions would realize and would have gave him more time if they realized that it was as bad as what it looks to be. So I guess most of it was his fault.
Well, where do you think Florida State goes from there? What has to be on the resume for them to hire someone? What are they looking for?
I was thinking Urban Meyer, but
he's not going to do it.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think.
Well, and Florida State said they wouldn't either. So I mean, you know.
Yeah, they said even if Willie Taggart gets hit by a bus, we're not hiring him. Well,
he pretty much got hit
bus
by a
came to town. Bus stopped for no one. And maybe they'll let Urban on though. I don't think he'd take it.
No, he would. I don't really know where they're gonna go.
I've seen a lot of people talk about Bob Stoops, and I think that would be a pretty good.
Bob Stoops was
because he knows how to build a program. That's what he's done. So.
Well, he was the hot name for about 24 hours, and then he came out and said, "Yeah, look, I'm not a candidate. This is all."
He's not going to coach again. I don't think he's coaching anywhere again. I think he enjoys what he's got right now, and I don't see him taking any jobs anytime soon.
I mean, how much can you really enjoy it though?
Oh, he enjoys it. Come on,
coaching at Kentucky. You got it like.
Well, that's
Mark
Stoops.
That 10 win season.
Yeah. Wait. You got the wrong Stoops.
Do I?
Yeah, Mark is at Kentucky.
Is that not who I said?
No, sorry, no, we were talking about Bob.
Yeah, we're talking about.
Yeah, Bob ain't going to do anything ever again.
That's who they thought they were gonna. That's what the rumors were. They were gonna hire him.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. I definitely.
Golly, you had me confused for a second.
Everybody thought it was Bob Stoops, but I don't think he will do anything. I think they should target Mark instead. That's what I'm saying.
Well, he's about the next hottest name on that list right now. But if you're Mark Stoops, do you leave your comfortable seat at Kentucky to go
Oh, they love Mike
probably
Kentucky.
get fired at Florida
That
State?
I mean, that just depends on how ambitious he really is, because he knows he's not going to win a national championship at Kentucky, but
Yeah.
Florida State has that because you have to get through one team right now, and that's Clemson. So
Well, he's a college football coach, so he's probably pretty ambitious, and
That's
not
what I'm
not
saying.
many coaches at that
yeah,
level
that's
look
what
at
I was
that job
getting
and
to
think they
when,
can't win there.
When
Yeah.
I thought Justin was talking about Mark, that's what I was getting at, is why wouldn't he leave? Is because if he's still under that amount of stress and still coaching somewhere, then there's no point to not be coaching somewhere you can build up and win a national championship.
I think that an interesting name for the job is Mike Norvell at Memphis. I could see him wanting to take a bigger
That's
step
a-
into a
That's a good coach.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were going to look pretty long and hard at Minnesota's coach, but they wrote him a contract quick.
Yeah, they sure did. 7 years.
His name
they
came
got
up
Gus.
in one person's mouth, and they wrote him like a $35 million check for the next 7 years or something like that.
Yeah, literally like a Gus Malzahn.
Yeah, kind of deal. Like, oh, Arkansas, don't take them. We love them that much.
Yeah, good on him.
Yeah.
Some other names for the running is Tony Elliott, Clemson's co-offensive coordinator, and Mark Richt is apparently one of
Mark. Yeah,
the
right.
supposed names.
ain't
I wouldn't take a chance on Mark. I like him as a person, but I probably wouldn't
Yeah,
hire
I
him.
still think he's a really good coach. He can't get past that hump.
He's in a rut for sure.
And health concerns too. You know how much longer is he gonna be coaching?
Right. Well, some more news off the top. The college football playoff rankings came out. We're going to dive into those much later when we talk about what we wish the playoffs were more like. But were y'all a little surprised with the outcome of it?
Yes.
Oh, very surprised.
So, yeah, Ohio State number 1, LSU 2, Alabama 3, Penn State 4 to round up the top 4. Defending national champion Clemson, 9-0, sitting there at 5, and then Georgia at 6. And then Florida at 10, Auburn 11.
It sounded like they just did kind of like an eye test. Oh, this looks like the best team in the country, and this that doesn't really look like a good team with Clemson. Clemson shouldn't be in the top 4 is what they were, of course, what they said. But to me, it just seems like it was an eye test. They weren't really looking at the teams they've played, because if anybody else in the country, it would have been, oh, LSU's number 1. We've beaten Florida. We've beaten Auburn. We beat Texas. What else do they need to do? Who's Ohio State beating? Wisconsin? I mean, they've lost to Illinois now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a joke.
Well, if,
I was pretty surprised. I'm not going to sit here and say that, especially after the way Ohio State's played the last week. They definitely, I had them at number 2, so I understand them being up there, but I don't understand how they could possibly be number 1 right now. I heard the argument over and over again that their strength of schedule is actually stronger than LSU's.
How?
Their complete schedule. So
Oh, their
that's
complete schedule.
Yeah, so that's my point. Is their strength of schedule, like, overall may be harder, but as of right now, it's not. So there's no point in putting them at number 1 because.
And heck, well, you keep going.
I mean, because like they have nothing to show for it. I mean, they might in 3 weeks, but then you should put them at number 1 in 3 weeks, not right now.
Yeah, see, the crazy thing is, when they play Penn State, they might have already lost a game to Minnesota because they play Minnesota this weekend. Michigan might lose a couple more games for all we know with how Michigan's been. So you can't give me that argument. Well, we don't even know what's going to happen with those games down the line.
Well, speaking of LSU being there at number 2, feeling a little disrespected, what is more disrespectful, them being at number 2 after having a crazy great season so far, or them being the ESPN computer saying they have a 71.9% chance of losing to Alabama?
That is way more disrespectful.
Yeah, we know those power indexes are never really close. I don't know what goes in to factor those percentages. I know being at home probably does, and
yeah, I think that's where the majority of that is coming from. Is that
but
they're
to be
playing
up,
Alabama at home.
but to be up that much though over a team that's ranked above you and it's looked stronger at some points, kind of outrageous.
What do you think a more realistic percentage is? I'm gonna say I would say probably 60% Alabama.
I'd give Alabama 55.
55. That's really close.
Yeah, I'm going with about 60 as well.
I mean, I think it's going to be really close, and I'm giving
Just
50.
because, and that's putting a lot on the home team as well. Like, if it wasn't at home, I wouldn't have it 60-40.
Yeah. Well, let's before we get into Alabama LSU a little bit more, let's go over Auburn Ole Miss since we didn't get to last Sunday. Justin, you asked for us kind of not to talk about it, but we're going to anyway.
I don't really know what to say with what this. I mean, this Ole Miss team has been pretty horrendous, and with how they played a lot of their games. I mean, they're going into it 3-5, and it reminded me of the Tennessee game last year because we had lost some games before, and we were sluggish, and I was like, oh my gosh. If this doesn't tell somebody, maybe we should fire Gus because it's the same thing over. And I hear the same crap from fans. Oh, but we only have 2 losses. Oh, but we're 7-2. It's the same. We have those crappy little. We love mediocre fans, and they love the 8-4. I mean, any other. I mean, I'm just being real once again.
Voice for the rest of the show.
I should, but it just it pisses me off because I see these fans that love mediocre, and it's like, have you not been watching these games every single year? We finally have a good defense, and the offense blows. It pisses. I mean, Ole Miss defense is gosh awful, and just have to sit through that. And we scored. I mean, now I'll give Auburn credit on offense. We had some good moments. Both threw for over 350 yards, I think. But how do you only score? Our red zone offense has always been one of the worst in the country. He doesn't know what to do when we get to the red zone. He's like, oh, flea flicker, 20-yard line. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. So how do you score 20 points with 504 total yards? And our kicker, well, how about our kicker? He blows too.
Well, let's slow down for a minute. Let's slow down because we're burning through this when you get on your rolls.
I'm just pissed.
So you're right that Auburn did not play good. They played as down as they possibly could to this opponent to still win.
It's deja vu.
And this was my hot take for the week. Is as soon as I heard like they're coming off a loss, like probably their biggest loss, and then as soon as I hear Joey Gatewood left during the week, I immediately was like, this is going to be Tennessee all over again.
I guess have we got to talk about that?
I picked them in the poll. I picked them over.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I picked Ole Miss to win. And
I mean, you were close.
That may have happened since, but we may not have got to talk about that last episode because that might have happened after the last episode.
Yeah, it did. We haven't talked about Joey Gatewood.
So Joey Gatewood back at quarterback left before this game. But yeah, Ole Miss entered a 19-point underdog. So Auburn was supposed to win by 19 on this one. Ended up being a whole lot closer.
6 points.
They won by 6 or 7. Is that right?
It was,
I think it was
20 to
6.
14.
Yeah.
Yes, they won by 6.
Yeah, 6.
And but so before we get into the bad again, let's just say they listened to us, Justin. There was some short passes, there was some check downs. We got some slants.
That's what but that's what I'm saying.
That's
like we actually
worse.
threw.
They actually get check downs and then they almost lose.
Yeah,
Ole Miss.
we actually throw the ball well, and we still can't score the ball because he doesn't know what he's doing in the red zone. I mean, he's a nut, man. He does the same thing every year, and there's some fans out there who are fine with it.
Though?
Oh yeah, calling a timeout with 12 seconds on the play clock. And it's genius.
The other good thing I was going to say, besides Bo getting his career high 340 yards and his rushing touchdown, was
no passing touchdowns.
DJ Williams looked really solid.
He's going to be. He reminds me of Michael Dyer. He's going to be really good. I'm excited to have him and Booby back there. That's the one good thing going for us.
With them both coming back against Georgia, at least it looks that way. It looks like Booby will be back.
I tell you what. That Georgia game scares me because that defense is so good, and the way our offense has been playing, All Georgia needs to do is score a few points, and they're going to beat us easily. That's what scares me.
Well, I cut you off before we got to the kicker, but Anderson Carlson missed 3 field goals.
He's nothing like his brother. He's the complete opposite. And he's only a sophomore, so I don't know. Maybe he'll get better from this, but golly, man. We wouldn't even be worrying about this game if he didn't miss those 3 field goals.
Yeah.
But I know there are players complaining about the atmosphere, but they weren't booing the players. They were booing Gus because he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. And everybody's tired of seeing this crap every year. We're ready for something good.
I think that watching all those fans pour out of there in the middle of such a close game was a pretty telltale sign that I think people are done with Gus.
Yeah.
I know there's still supporters and fans of him, but I think that they're becoming a smaller and smaller group by the day.
Because, I mean, the amount of hype this team has just about every year, it seems, and it's like, oh man, this is the year. We're supposed to have this good offense. We have a great defense. We have all these
He's
seniors.
a mastermind, dude.
Yeah, he's a mastermind of
guru.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who's a mastermind is his agent. That
Yeah,
got you
really.
down
Get him that
in the
contract?
College Football Hall of Fame
real.
for
Golly.
getting that deal.
That's what he should do. He should just leave while he can before things get any worse, and he should just go to Florida State.
Or Arkansas.
It'll cover up a lot of his tracks.
Just
For
imagine
a couple of years.
Just imagine being that lawyer, that agent, and saying, yeah, I got Gus Malzahn on that 7-year contract, so if you want to make
For
money, you hire me.
$49 million.
$50 million.
Yeah.
I mean, this a high school coach at best, and he's getting $7 million a year. Can you believe that?
Well, I just wanted to talk really quickly about Auburn. So, any thoughts you want to wrap up?
I love my Auburn Tigers, but I mean it's not fair. It's not it's not fair to go into every episode and say, "Oh, War Eagle." Anyways, I still think we're. I mean that's not
Can
fair.
you start doing that? That'll actually make my day. At the end of every episode, I want you to
War
go,
Eagle
War
anyways.
Eagle anyways.
That'll be Aaron's thing is
Isn't that
adios.
just-
You'll be.
Isn't that the
War
most-
Eagle anyways.
Isn't that the saddest thing you've ever heard? It sounds so depressing.
Yes, I look forward to it very, very often.
Golly.
It's great.
It's.
I
I mean,
love
it's
it.
every mom on Facebook after every loss.
I
War
hate
Eagle
it.
anyway.
I mean, I'm supposed to be happy after losing. Last thing I checked, you're supposed to hate losing more than you love winning. I hate to lose. Sorry, I just had to get some of this off because it's been going on for way too long now.
Roll Tide.
Well, let's move on from Auburn.
Yeah,
then
I love
before
all the Auburn
Justin has-
players. I just hate
before-
Gus.
where Justin has a mental breakdown any further than he already has. We will. Speaking of Auburn, though, we will be having a bonus episode next week for the Auburn Georgia game. We'll have another special guest for that one, so stay tuned, and we'll announce it on Facebook next week. We don't like announcing it too early in case something falls through, but yeah, so that'll be out next Thursday, I guess.
Yep.
We have to record that one a little earlier because I'm having to go to the Jonas Brothers concert Wednesday
Oh
night.
my gosh.
You might want to cut that out, brother.
Yeah, I would
No,
cut
it's
that
okay. I'll
out.
leave it in there. I'll leave it in there.
I would
All
definitely cut that out if I was you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going for my girlfriend. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
That's good.
I'd still
Not
cut
for,
it
not
out.
for myself. Although this will be my second Jonas Brothers concert.
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
definitely cut that
Yeah,
out.
so
It's
you're-
time to stop.
You got a real nice shovel, and you're digging yourself deeper and deeper.
You're about to get me to say something I shouldn't be saying on this show, so you better stop while you can.
Okay. Anyways, next bonus episode will be out
That was
next
a threat,
Thursday.
man.
We'll record it a little earlier, but there'll be a special guest for that one as well. But first, let's get into Alabama, LSU. So Alabama, 82-7 at home under Saban. LSU has lost the last 8 straight to Alabama, and they're entering a 6.5-point underdog to the Crimson Tide. What are your confidence levels in Alabama to get the job done?
Aaron, you can go ahead.
I'm going to go with about a 60-40 as well.
Like I was saying, I think it'll be 55. I'm giving it just because they're at home. If it was in Baton Rouge, I don't think Alabama's winning.
Now, what is your
But-
confidence level if Tua does not play, which, as of right now, it seems very likely that he will.
I'd go 55 for LSU.
I'm same. I'm still 60-40.
Really?
I personally, I mean, I think
that's a big statement.
I think people are underestimating Mac, and I think if Tua does get out there and he's not completely healthy, and he tries to do too much, so, this is going to be a game that's based on, one play could change the game. It's going to be that kind of game. So if Tua goes out there and he fumbles once, trying to do too much, scrambling, just something, anything could happen. Like if he just tries to do something too much one time versus one mistake that Mac might make because he's inexperienced, I think it'll even itself out, and I'm pretty even kill on the whole thing. Because I think if Mac goes out there, they're going to run the offense. They're going to run the offense a completely different, and I'm not as worried about Mac being out there. I mean, look at how Bo Nix played against them, and they still lost by 3 points at home.
He sucked.
Yeah, so I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more on the offensive coordinator's shoulders than anybody's.
But the only reason Auburn was in that game because of that defense, and
True,
I think the Auburn defense is better than the Alabama defense this year.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it is. But let's say it's still, I think Auburn's offense. I mean, I think Alabama's offense is way better than Auburn's defense is better than Alabama's defense, if that makes sense.
I get where you're going.
Well,
you're saying Alabama will score plenty on Auburn.
The difference in Alabama and Auburn's offense is much greater than the difference than their defenses.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that makes up for each other, and I think it'll still be a pretty close game, and it'll still come down to those few key plays, and I think it doesn't matter whether Tua's out there or Mac's out there. I think they should be able to get the job done, and it'll be close.
Yeah.
What's been irking me about this matchup is how much the defensive have been counted out, especially LSU's defense. It seems like everybody just wants to act like they're Oklahoma's defense, but this is still a good LSU defense. It's not as great as some that we've seen in the past, but they're going to put some pressure on the quarterback.
Still 4-star, 5-star recruits on that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's going to cause some massive problems for Alabama's offense. I just think that they will be able to hunker down and get through it, but I wouldn't count them out at all to make some big plays.
I think the huge thing for LSU is if they have the same starting offense like they did against Auburn, they won't have a chance because Alabama will come out firing. So if they come out the same way they did against Auburn, it won't be close because they had a slow start against Auburn. So Burrow's going to have to come out looking sharp on that first drive, and I think if they score on that first drive, it'll be a good game.
Well, on paper, these two teams, outside of strength of schedule, I mean, they look just about identical. For points per game, LSU 46.8 points per game, Alabama 48.6. Points against 20 for LSU, 15.3 for Alabama. I mean, even the yards per game, 535 for LSU, 506 for Alabama. Yards against 315 for LSU, 307 for Alabama. So everything, I mean, it's as close as you could possibly get. And I'm not going to keep naming all these numbers because it'll just get boring. But I mean, these offenses and these defenses are so similar, and it's going to be almost like it's going to be like 2011 when these two teams meet, except polar opposite. Instead of being super defensive heavy, it's very offensive heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought we'd be saying that, especially for this game.
That kind of brings me to this question: is how monumental is this game in comparison to previous Alabama LSU matchups?
Depends on who wins. If LSU wins, then it's going to be way bigger. If Alabama wins, it's just 9th in a row. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth to it.
If
Alabama wins, it's not going to be near as big of a deal.
I think we can all agree that the biggest game was the national championship between these two.
Yeah.
And then behind that, I would say was the game earlier that season, 2011, the 9-6 game.
That was definitely the best game.
So would you say is this one just right behind that one, or does it maybe compete with that 9-6 game to be?
I'd say it's bigger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because.
I mean, I wouldn't. I think it'll only be considered bigger or not based on how good of a game it actually is. Cause,
well, yeah.
I mean, but currently, right now, like, I mean, it's bigger for this season, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. I mean, it's the same. Has the same influence.
I think it's just bigger.
If anything, it might be a little. It might be less because now we have a college playoff and then we didn't. So there's still a greater chance of either one of these teams getting into the playoff and actually being able to compete for a national championship with a loss. Whereas in 2011,
which y'all still competed with the loss.
One loss is usually you're usually out. So
it took a whole lot of madness to get Alabama back in there in 2011.
But see, I guess.
So for the same part of the season and the same implications, I would say it's actually a little less.
Yeah,
I would say it's bigger just because of the Heisman hopefuls on both teams, and well, from what I've heard from some of these sports people is that if Alabama loses this game, they won't make the playoff if the same things keep happening for these teams just because of their strength of schedule. Yeah. So I think in that sense it's a big game just because this determines who's going to win out in the West and will make it in the college football playoff.
Well, let's hear from Tyrone Prothro, former Alabama receiver. I got to talk to him a little earlier this week on the phone and get his thoughts about the game and relive some glory days. So we're going to play that for you real quick.
All right, we're here with Tyrone Prothro, legendary Alabama receiver from 2004 to 2005, best known for the catch and acrobatic reception he made behind the head of a Southern Miss defender that won Best Play of the 2006 ESPY Awards. Tyrone, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. I bet you are doing pretty good since your Jasper Vikings just finished undefeated in the regular season, 10-0.
Oh yeah, definitely. Our guys have played hard all season. One of our goals was to, win the region. Another one of our goals was, once we realized that we could go undefeated, was to, we wanted to have an undefeated regular season. And now we know at this point, the records don't matter. It's just week by week. We want to try to, get a game week by week.
Yeah. For what I found online, this is the school's first undefeated season since 1999. So that's 20 years, right on it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a big accomplishment. Our guys knew that, and they wanted to. Guys want to leave their legacy, especially our seniors. They want to leave their legacy on this team, and they've been good with leading our younger guys. And like I said, that was one of our goals, and we set out and achieved that goal.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your role with this team.
Right now, I coach the receivers and the returners, and really we just trying to make them, help them to be the best receivers they can be, but also, just trying to, teach them a little bit about life as well.
Well, the first playoff game is this Friday at home against Madison Academy. What do you expect to see out of your guys this weekend?
Well, I just expect them to come out and play hard. I mean, I think if we come out and play hard like we know how to play hard, I think everything else will take care of itself. Well,
I wish you the best of luck this week. I'll definitely be there and watching. So,
definitely appreciate it.
Well, going back to your college days, you were one of the greatest receivers in Alabama history, obviously, and of course, you had one of the most memorable catches in sports history that we'll get into in just a moment. But first, tell us a little bit about your playing days outside of the catch. And, of course, outside of that unfortunate injury that came later, what are some moments and teammates that stand out in your mind?
Well, I mean, of course, it being LSU weekend, one was, just, having my freshman year, just having the type of game that I had against LSU as a freshman. I had a few catches in that game, and, of course, we got beat. I think we got beat 27-3 that game, but that was kind of a game where, I felt like I played pretty good. I had a few catches, and just kind of remembering, what I was able to do in that game.
Well, everyone asks you, of course, about the catch because Alabama fans can never get enough of it. So we will as well. For any listeners who may not know, as if anyone doesn't, this was a 42-yard reception over a Southern Miss DB in which you somehow managed to reach around the receiver's helmet, almost like a bear hug, and come down with the ball just short of the end zone. Could you just walk us through that?
I mean, it was a fourth and 12, I think. Maybe we had had about 29 seconds to go on the clock. And really, it was just an opportunity for me to make a play. You know, Brody saw me one-on-one with the safety. And really, for me, I just kind of threw my hands up the way I normally would if I was running by myself. It just so happened that the defender happened to be in between my arms when I threw my hands up. So, which caused it to end the way it did, and we both, you know, kind of just the momentum made us go in the end zone, and we flipped in the end zone.
What was going through your head when you stood back up afterwards?
Well, I mean, I was, you know, just kind of, you know, trying to get the refs to, you know, to call it a touchdown because, I mean, I didn't know at the time that my knee had hit down on the 1 yard line, but that was actually the first year that we were able to have instant replay, and so they went back and replayed it, and of course my knee, it was definitely a catch, and then my knee hit down at the 1 yard line, but you know, I was kind of, I guess if you see me on the sideline, I was still, when they called it down at the 1, even though we still got the ball on the 1 yard line, I was kind of ticked off that they called it down at the 1 yard line, but nevertheless, we scored on the very next play.
Well, me and you, of course, have talked about this in depth before because we did the article for Hall & Arena. You can find that at hallandarena.com or at thegamemanagers.com. But I believe you said that you got a letter from George W. Bush. I think it was actually after the injury, not necessarily the catch. But tell us a little bit about that because that was a story that I just found so interesting.
Well, it was just it was a letter that I was in the hospital, and you know, a lot of people were sending me letters. You know, not just the president, but you know, I got a lot of fan letters of people wishing me well, saying they were praying for me, and it was just interesting that I got a letter from he and his wife. You know, and they, you know, I guess somebody reached out to him and told him about my injury, and they wrote me a letter and wished me well, and you know, hope for a speedy recovery.
The injury we're talking about here is one that unfortunately ended your career sooner than it should have in a home game against number 5 Florida when you suffered what many would consider to probably be one of the most gruesome injuries in sports history. Can you just tell us a little bit of what happened from your perspective?
Well, I mean, it was just it was a play. You know, I've jumped up like that, you know, hundreds of times probably, and it just so happened to happen on that one play. I mean, you know, with a combination of, you know, how I jumped, and then the guy just, you know, he bumped my body in the air, and it, you know, at the rate I was coming down, it kind of, you know, it made me come down the way I did when he bumped my body in the air. So, I think, you know, kind of, you know, caused that injury. But, you know, what a lot of people don't realize is that was probably, you know, our starters. It was 4th down and like 5, and that was probably our starters' last play of that game. And it just so happened to happen on that one play.
How did you come to terms with realizing it was time to hang it up thereafter?
Well, I mean, I don't think I was never told that, you know, my career was over, and I never really, you know, let that set into my head until, you know, it was time for me to graduate. I just kind of wanted to finish school. You know, I was just kind of tired of the surgeries and the rehab, and I really just wanted to live a normal life and finish school and get my degree. So I kind of just took that road myself to where, you know, I'm getting older, don't have much time. The time that I had to rehab, you know, I didn't have that much time left, you know, as far as eligibility. So, you know, just kind of, I you know, figured it out on my own that, you know, hey, I need to make the best out of, you know, my situation, and that was to get my degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for anyone that hasn't read that article that I was lucky enough to do with you, Tyrone, I would really recommend everybody to do it because I got to say you're one of the most inspirational men I've ever met, and you're just a guy that's never shied away from punches or ever felt sorry for himself, and we talk about that a lot more in the article, but. After that injury, you basically just said, okay, God doesn't want me to do this. He wants me to do something else. That's fine. I'll do whatever he wants me to do. And that's an outlook I don't think many guys are strong enough to have, especially when, your life had to change so much. It's a story I wish every athlete on earth could hear. And because you dealt with adversity like no one I've ever heard of before, man.
Yeah, whenever you go through life and you have any type of adversity like that, it's how you handle it. Really defines you. I mean, you can take it the wrong way, and you can sit back and dwell on it and not become the person that you should be. But for me, it was just kind of taking that and making myself stronger from the situation. And that was just kind of my mentality about it. I just wanted to, use it as, motivation to better myself. And it worked out for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would wholeheartly agree with that. Well, let's talk a little bit about this year's rendition of the Crimson Tide. You played at a time when the Tide wasn't really known for being a receiver's paradise like it is today. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this new age offense and receiving core now at Alabama.
Well, I mean, just what they all have to offer. I mean, back when I played, we ran routes and we took routes serious, but I think the art of route running has evolved in this new age. I mean, guys are really, they're really bigger, faster, stronger, and, just a lot more knowledgeable about the art of route running and all that. So, the receivers we have, I mean, they all take pride in the route running, and they're all technicians on running routes to get open. They understand how to run routes to get open, regardless of what coverage a team gives them or whatever. But just sitting back watching them operate, like I just like to sit back and watch them run routes. Just from when Calvin Ridley was there, he was one that I like to watch, and then now Jerry Jeudy and even Amari Cooper. Like, those are three of some of the best route runners that I've seen, that's come through Alabama. So, just sitting back and watch them work and just watch them, be technicians and students of the game when it comes to running routes. Like, it's fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, those guys are having a ball week in and week out. I've never seen anything like it, but. They're going to be tested this week, though. How do you like this matchup for Alabama and a banged-up Tua against LSU?
Well, I think Tua will be fine. I think as far as our receivers and route running, it's tough to guard a good receiver that understands how to run routes against zone and man coverage. So, I mean, really, I think it's just going to be, your guy versus my guy, and it's going to be on Tua, in which he makes good decisions, to find the open guy, not try to force it to one guy, or not, to key in on one guy. And I think he does a really good job of doing that. But our receivers, I think, will we have too many to key on one of them. So if you want to try to take away Jeudy, then you got Ruggs and Devontae Smith. So, and then even Waddle. So just. Kind of pick your poison on who you want to try to key on, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. How important do you think Tua is this game? Right now, it seems like he is going to play. Do you think that maybe Alabama wouldn't be able to pull it off if he wasn't starting?
I think Tua gives us of course he gives us the best chance to win it, but. I think the guys that we have, the second string, third string, and Jones and Taleo, I feel like they are capable quarterbacks. If they just manage the game and not have any turnovers, I think we still would have an opportunity, to be in and possibly win the game. But yeah, definitely Tua gives us the best opportunity to win this game.
What do you think Alabama is going to have to do to stop or slow down this electric LSU offense?
Well, I mean, you just got to put pressure on the quarterback. I mean, you got to put pressure on Joe Burrow. I think we're going to have to be able to guard man, hold up in man coverage. Once we send blitz, because I'm sure we're probably going to, go after him. So when we play, man coverages, we're going to have to be able to hold up on the back end, and I think we're capable of doing that.
Yeah. Well, give us your final predictions for the game. Give us one for if Tua plays and one for if he doesn't.
I don't really do predictions. I think if we come out and play the way we know how to play, if Tua plays, I think we'll be fine, and I think we should come away with the win. And I think if Tua doesn't play, I think if we take care of the ball and don't have any turnovers, any interceptions or any fumbles, or our defense plays well, I think we'll put ourselves in a position to win the game.
All right. Well, thank you, Tyrone, man. I appreciate you talking to us, and I wish y'all the best of luck this Friday. I'll be there cheering y'all on.
Thanks, Nick, for having me on.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye.
Okay, so let's just jump right into our final thoughts for this Alabama LSU game. Let's do our score predictions since we were so bad off the last time we did the bonus episode.
Hey, I was close. I was close.
Yeah, you were close. I was the most off, and Aaron was a little closer to you. So who wants to go first?
Not me. I have not.
Since
thought
I'm
about
the
this at all.
Alabama fan, I'll go first. I guess I'm just feeling good for LSU, so I'm going to say they're winning 38-35.
So you've got LSU winning.
Yep, 38-35.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say I think I like that score, like around that area. I'm going to say Alabama wins 38-32.
All right.
Let's see. I'm going to say LSU has 38 points and Alabama has 45.
Oh, wow, getting into the 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always said the way to beat an Alabama team is to have a great passer and a great pass attack, and this is the best pass attack in the country. So I think this is a great formula to beat Alabama. So that's why I feel like LSU can get it done.
Well, I will. I'll log those scores. We'll come back to them on Sunday at our normally scheduled episode, and we will see how we all fared. And we'll see. As an Auburn fan, Justin, do you find yourself rooting for LSU in this one, or do you really? Just
I'm going to be completely biased right now. Of course, I'll be rooting for LSU. Let's be honest. Anytime a team's playing Alabama, I'm usually rooting for the other team.
Except for the whenever they play Georgia, right?
Oh yeah, that national championship game, I was kind of torn. I was like, golly, man, I really hate Georgia, and I like Tua, so I was like, what the heck, if they won this game, I wouldn't really care.
Well, let's get into the college football playoff then. This is one that we've been waiting all season for because we're about to get in a heated debate.
And greatly disappointed by these first rankings.
Yeah, so before we get into our debate, let's talk in more depth about these rankings. So LSU getting moved to second makes no sense to me unless you're just doing the eye test like you said. Even then, I'd have LSU number one. I don't get why they got them at number two.
I mean, I understand. I mean, the eye test is Ohio State's probably the best balanced team in the country because their defense is the best in the country. But then you can't really judge that because who have they really played? Nobody who has a great offense. So, I mean, you can't really judge, we had the best defense in the country. Well, who have you played? Well, no good offensive teams. So, I mean, and that's the thing that just frustrates me is because of LSU's had this tough schedule, and it's still not over. They still got to play Bama this weekend, and they're sitting at number 2 instead of the number 1 team in the country.
I don't understand why. I don't it's like every one of these were placed in this order for a different philosophy. Okay, so it's like, well, we got Ohio State up at the top because they passed the eye test. Yeah, they don't have the best strength of schedule, but, we're just putting them down there anyways. Also, the defending national champion Clemson is still undefeated.
Oh,
It's got like
yeah.
20-something wins now. We don't like their strength of schedule, even though we didn't use that metric for Ohio State, so we're bumping them out of the top 4.
Makes absolutely no sense.
It's just I don't understand. I don't understand what the thought process was. And even when the commissioner came on last night to try to explain it, I felt like he couldn't.
Yeah, yes, that was wild. Just sitting there trying to find something in his speech, and it was just the most generic answers, and whatever.
It was just Clemson and Ohio State and LSU, they're all great teams, and we have great respect for these teams. Like, yeah, well, why did you put them there? Why is Clemson?
Yeah.
That's what I've got more of an issue with anything is I don't have an issue with them being placed there. It's for the reasoning with Ohio State being 1 and Clemson 5. Those negate each other.
If you're going to do it one way, then it needs to be done all the way down. Like, they put Ohio State there, and their argument was because their strength of schedule overall is going to be more than LSU's, and that's why they put Penn State above Clemson. But why? Like, because Ohio State and Penn State are going to play in a couple weeks, and it just doesn't make any sense because LSU has a stronger schedule right now. Even though Penn State has a stronger schedule right now, like, they're going to play, and you're putting the defending national champs that absolutely demolished Alabama in the national championship. And I just don't understand putting them at 5. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I mean, I think
it's
I'm more
just for the story.
Yeah.
Get people talking. Honestly, I think that's all it is.
I think I'm honestly more okay with Clemson being in the top, left out of the top 5 because they're not going to lose a game. They're not really worried because they know those teams in the top 4 are going to have a loss. They're going to make the playoff. I think I'm just more frustrated by having Ohio State at number 1 with the teams LSU has played and beaten so far. I think that's the thing that's just the most confusing to me. And I mean, I look at Ohio State's schedule. I mean, they've played FAU, Miami, Ohio, Indiana, Nebraska, Northwestern. They beat a Wisconsin team that's lost to Illinois. Michigan State's really not that good. I mean, really, their best win is either Wisconsin or Cincinnati because Cincinnati is 7-1 now.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most frustrating thing to me.
20th?
Yeah, they are.
So they must not be. If the committee thought that the win over Cincinnati was a decent win, then Cincinnati, that would be considered a good loss for them. So then they would be higher up than 20.
You would
so
think.
By putting Cincinnati at 20, then they're basically saying that that's not that great of a loss. So they're also saying that's not great of a win.
Well, heck,
so
we have
they have Wisconsin. Okay. So it still makes zero sense why they're ahead of LSU.
Yeah, and then they have Minnesota at 17, who's 8-0, and then a Wisconsin team with 2 losses in front of them, a Wisconsin team that lost to Illinois. So how does that make any sense?
I will say that I am rooting for Minnesota just because I think it would be hilarious if they somehow won the Big Ten.
But that'd be awesome.
They have not played very many people, and I think they were even in double overtime. With a nobody, and they beat somebody else by 1 point. And
I wouldn't be surprised they got exposed on Saturday.
Yeah, I think they might, but I'm rooting for them.
You never know. Minnesota's at home.
What was the crazy thing that I texted y'all the other day? I was just joking around.
Yeah, find it. It was how you get Minnesota into the playoff or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really. I was just joking, obviously. Okay.
Here's Minnesota's close wins. They barely beat South Dakota State by 7. They beat Fresno State in double overtime by 3. They beat Georgia Southern by 3. They beat Purdue by a touchdown. So that's kind of scary.
Yeah. But so I was just joking around because we had in our group chat, I believe it was Justin says something about a lot of people are talking about Bama not making it to the playoffs if they lose to LSU because there's so many undefeated good teams right now. And I said that's what everyone thinks right now. But Baylor is going to lose out their entire schedule.
Ain't no Baylor is going to lose out.
Yes, they're going to lose out.
Go 8-5.
They do have a pretty hard schedule for the rest of the year. But
They do.
They're going to lose out. Then Penn State is going to lose to Indiana and Minnesota because Indiana's 7-2. They're not terrible. So Penn State is going to lose to Indiana and Minnesota this weekend. But Penn State will be Ohio State, and Ohio State will lose to Minnesota in the Big Ten Championship. LSU will beat Alabama without Tua. Then they'll lose to Georgia in the SEC Championship game. So there'll be 3 SEC teams with one loss. And then Minnesota will be like 12-0 with a Big Ten Championship, or 13-0. So Minnesota will be number 1.
Minnesota would be America's team because no one would want to see that.
And then we'll have Georgia with 1 loss at number 2 because they would be the SEC champions.
Sure.
Then LSU at number 3 because they'd have the tiebreaker over Bama. And then Bama with 4, and there'd be 3 SEC teams.
What happened to Clemson?
We don't talk about them.
They lost out too.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just say they lost to someone. Who cares about Clemson, honestly? This is way cooler.
So you tell me they're going to lose. Who are they playing this week?
Hey, can you just go along with my fantasy?
I just want to see who they're playing.
And then...
Oh, they're going to lose to NC State. Okay.
And then after all that madness, Bama and LSU will rematch for a championship with a completely healthy Tua, and we'll beat them 21-0 again.
Hey, now how about this? What if
That would
Clemson
be
loses
awesome.
to Wake Forest, who is 7-1?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there
Never
you go.
know.
You filled in the blanks. Okay.
Hey, Clemson
So
has
anyways,
to go
back
to
to
South
my-
Carolina.
Huh?
So Clemson has to go to South Carolina. Who knows?
Good. So they'll lose both of those games. There you go.
Yeah.
Then it will be Minnesota, Georgia, LSU, and Bama. It's going to happen. Mark it down. It's a guarantee.
The guarantee of the week.
I hope you're nowhere close with that terrible prediction.
Well, obviously, I'm not going to be anywhere close. Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, it was absolute. It's kind of like blasphemy, really, when I'm hearing this. Minnesota won.
I just want something crazy like that to happen, though. That would be awesome. Just to give
Who
you
in their
imagine
right
the
mind?
madness.
Who in their right mind is going to watch Alabama versus Minnesota? I sure as heck ain't going to watch it. That'll be the worst game I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, well, I mean, more of America is going to watch it because, like Nick said earlier, everybody's going to be wanting Minnesota to win, so they actually might make more money.
But I don't wake up in the morning and say, man, I really wish Minnesota would win and go to the playoff. That's a great team.
Who cares what you wake up in the morning and say? I don't know what that has to do with this argument at all.
Well, let's get back on topic, please. So another interesting thing with these rankings is that all of a sudden the Pac-12 is like back in the hunt when we counted them out like twice.
Yeah, let's go Oregon.
So you got Oregon at 7, Utah at 8.
I don't like Utah.
Yeah.
Just saying, they're close. I mean, they're right outside of it.
It's going to be Oregon, Utah in the Pac-12 championship, and I'm going Oregon over Utah.
Yeah.
I would love to see Oregon make the playoff. I hope
What about
happens.
Is that what you wake up in the morning and say?
Yeah, it is. I'm like, man, those Oregon Ducks. I wish they'd made the top 4.
Cool.
It's weird, Justin. You need to like.
I thought you were an Auburn fan.
Well, hey, we're kind of back and forth, with how Auburn have been playing. I tell you what, Oregon's definitely wishing they would have won that game week 1. They would have been sitting in the top 4.
That, especially if Auburn drops 2 more against Georgia
That'll
and
look
Alabama,
rough.
that win isn't going to look very good.
Nope.
Or loss, I should say.
Now, if they beat Georgia and lose to Alabama, it'd still look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would look a lot better. But
Yeah, well, yeah.
they're going to be big Auburn fans here the next few weeks for sure.
But
What
no,
about
Oregon,
Georgia at number 6?
I think that's completely fair.
Nah.
They're They just
they
beat a
got 2
Florida
losses
team.
already. I mean, yeah, that's.
They have
I mean,
one
okay.
loss. Georgia has 1 loss. What are you talking about?
Oh, then yeah, okay.
But what about
That's
okay?
where they belong.
So you got Georgia at 6, but then you also have 1 loss Oklahoma at 9, and I'm not
I
convinced
was
that
looking-
loss is that much worse than Georgia's loss.
Well, I have Florida ahead of Oklahoma. Just because of Florida's 2 losses to LSU and Georgia.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about if
Oklahoma's-
you made a ranking, you'd have them ahead of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'd have Florida ahead of Oklahoma. Just because
Yeah, I
Oklahoma's
mean-
lost to Kansas State.
That's one of those that it's all gonna pan itself out in 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I could go either way, Oklahoma at first or Florida, because they do have 2 really good losses. So
Well, how about we talk about what we like and what we dislike about this college football playoff format? Because it seems, especially after this week, a lot of people are really unhappy with the 14 playoff. At least I should say they're unhappy with this committee's method to
The
selecting
shiz and
whatever
stuff.
that
And
may
their inability to explain the reason why they have the rankings as they are.
yeah,
be. I guess they're just all drunk and said throw some names
I
up
honestly
there.
think they have really sensitive feelings, and they don't
To the
wanna
Big
get
Ten?
roasted. Because I think if they said exactly what they thought, then everybody would just say, "No, that's stupid," and here's
You
why, and
hate
they'd lay it
Ohio
out, and they would
State.
cry
That's what
at night.
That's what everybody would be saying if Ohio State wasn't number 1. You don't like the Big Ten. It's always the SEC.
What's
And
with
so
this
they're like-
character? Just the whole episode. Who is this? Who are you making fun of?
I'm just making fun of the sorry Ohio State fans out there that are always complaining about something.
So I
I'm
guess you
sorry.
wake up in the morning and you don't want them to go to the playoff. Huh?
No, that's when he goes to sleep at night. He's like, God,
Oh,
I
okay.
hope they don't go to the playoff.
I mean, there's probably a lot of other people that say
Sounds
that.
like a miserable existence. Like, I don't like Ohio State at all either, but I
Yeah, so
don't think about them every night.
He goes to sleep thinking about Ohio State and then wakes up thinking about Oregon every day.
yeah, because Oregon, they blew their chance to beat Ohio State that year. Goodness gracious.
Okay.
Okay. It was in 2014.
That's only 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Okay.
Oh
I'm
my
sorry,
God.
guys.
Okay.
I'm kind of loopy tonight.
You don't say. Well, let's talk about this before. Okay, so I've got some notes. Aaron, you've got a lot of notes. I watched you write them all down. I was quite impressed. I wrote all my notes this morning at like 10 a.m. and I made them really vague. I already forgot what most of them means. But
I don't have any
right
notes.
here at the very top in all caps, I have not an expert and systems imperfect. Also, expansion is inevitable. So I guess I was saying
Inedible. I don't think it's edible.
Yeah, I don't think I can
Expensive.
eat it.
Inevitable. Sorry. So basically, I was saying, yeah, if you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't care. Also,
We definitely disagree with you.
not you. It's talking about the listeners. They can tweet at us and tell us.
They don't agree with you.
And then
Yeah,
also,
we know they don't agree with you either.
I'm not saying that the current system. I'm about to defend the current system. I'm not saying it's perfect. I know it's not perfect. There's a lot of problems with it.
You suck.
I
up.
just like it better than the other options. So I'm gonna open up with some of my thoughts because y'all are kind of on the same track. Y'all like an expanded, to an extent, a playoff. But I do not want that at all. And this is why. Okay, so
You boomer.
my my first
Okay.
my first
I have to
reason.
cut that out.
No.
Probably the majority of our listeners are boomers.
It's okay. The boomers don't know how to listen to podcasts.
Okay.
You gotta leave it in now.
Okay, so my number one.
100 followers. I'm watching it live.
Man.
So my number one topic is the one that everybody points out, is that it'll make the season less meaningful. And when I say that, this is the example I'm going to give. If we went even to just a 16 playoff, this week's game against LSU just wouldn't matter whatsoever. Because either one of these teams could lose and then win out, and they're automatically in. I would not play Tua.
But yeah, I'm gonna give you the argument of the NFL. Do you think those regular season games don't matter? Because they
A lot
lose
of
a
them
game.
don't.
Not really.
I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot
lose
that,
that one against me too.
but I mean, there's a lot that do matter. But to say
Sure,
that,
yeah. I'm not saying that no games will matter. There's still going to be a lot that matters. You can't lose that game and then lose another one, or well, you might could, but you can't lose 3. So yeah, it would still matter. It's just going to lose a little bit of intensity. Maybe not enough to really upset anybody, but it'll lose a little bit.
I think the great thing. I'll let you keep going because we have a lot more to talk about. So
Yeah, you could let me read through this then. I'll let you tell me how dumb I am.
I'll be respectful.
So, alongside that, you'd get some lousy teams in there competing for the national championship. So you'd get some 2 to 3 lost teams. Right
you still get lousy teams now.
Sure, but you're going to get more. So right now, looking at the rankings, it looks good because we're only 8 to 9 games in. But if you go back and look at like the previous years, you're going to have some teams in there that may have 2 to 3 losses competing for national championship. I don't know that I necessarily want that.
We'll see about that.
We'll
talk about that.
Another thing is that if we expand, I don't think it'll really solve anything because people will just argue about, well, why did 6 get in and not 7, or why did 8 get in and not 9? You're never going to please everyone, which that's kind of a lazy defense in my part because it doesn't really defend anything.
I'm glad you noticed it.
But still, I'm just saying I don't think this is going to solve anybody's problems if we do that. And then finally, I have here, I just like the 4-team drama. So I like seeing people get upset. I like seeing all the tweets. And most importantly, I like seeing colleges lose their minds when they don't get in, like UCF, and then do something absolutely crazy like throw a parade in Disney World to celebrate their self-proclaimed national championship.
You can thank Auburn for that as well.
So that's what I've got here. But on the flip side, I'll get into these in a minute. I've got some pros that I will admit, if they was expanded, there are some things I would like about that. So I'll let y'all go ahead and tear me apart.
So Aaron,
now,
would you like to go?
I thought Nick was going right now. Are you done?
That's just my cons. If y'all want to tear apart my arguments right now, feel free to.
Well, I mean, Aaron, do you want to go or?
No, go first. I'm doing
okay.
something.
So I'm just going to go and talk about the point of you'd have more garbage teams come in. Let's not forget we've had Notre Dame in here multiple times, if I'm not mistaken. We also had a Michigan State team in here at one point that was, weren't they shut out, if I'm not mistaken, or did they score a touchdown?
No, they
listen, those teams will get through the cracks. Just like in the BCS, we had a 2-loss LSU win the national championship. Something's going to happen where those teams get in, but if you expand it, it's just going to happen more frequently.
But if you expand it to 6, what you do is your numbered 1 and 2 teams are on a bye. Then you have 3 play 6 and 4 play 5. So then you're like, okay, let's get a good feel of who's going to really make it to play the top tier teams. And then once you have the 6 teams, the conference championship actually means something, because then you can put the 5 Power 5 conference champions in there, depending on what they've done during the season. Don't say anything yet, because I think if the way it is now, Ohio State won the conference championship, they didn't make it in. So what's the point of even playing this game? You might as well just take it out. It's just another game that's on the schedule. I mean, it has no implication on the playoff for a lot of these conferences.
Now, I've got here, I said, if you expand the playoff, just get rid of conference championship games.
Now, see, I disagree with that, because the way they do it for NCAA basketball,
your point by saying that, but they make too much money off of them. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know
they won't take those
I'm
away.
just saying,
and I still think it is a fun game for bragging rights. And
oh yeah, it still means something.
I'm going to point out how it could mean something. So
yeah, so what you do is you take those conference winners and you put them in the playoff. It's like NCAA basketball. They take the conference winners and you automatically make the tournament. And so I think that's what makes it fun.
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll tell you my pros, and then I will let y'all say your own thoughts about the current system and the system you'd like to see. So I'd like to see the system just stay the same, but if it does get changed, here are some things I would like. You'd have at least one more meaningful bowl game, which I love bowl games, and I'd love for them to get more respect. So even if you just made it 6 teams, you'd at least get one more meaningful game. You get more diversity of teams, which I'd like to see. I'd like to see some different teams get, in the shakeup. And then your group of 5 team has a better odd of getting in. So your UCFs, even though I don't want to say them, but like your Boise States, people like that, teams like that, I should say, would have a better chance of getting in. So that's the things I like. But overall, because I don't want to see that intensity possibly drop in the regular season, I wouldn't like it to change.
Oh, you, Justin?
So, I mean, I like that they finally moved it to a playoff when they started this back in 14. 4 teams, it's a great start. You're kind of getting an idea of what you like. And so, I like what they started off with, but now you're at the point where I think there's teams that are being left out that, I mean, I say like Ohio State, I don't like them. But some of these conference, or when Penn State won the conference championship in the Big Ten, they should have still made it in over. Who got in over them? Alabama?
When?
It was when Penn State won the Big Ten championship. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
That would be in 2006, and a Big Ten champion, or there was nobody from the Big. No, I lied. Ohio State went from the Big Ten in 2016.
You mean 2016?
Yeah, is that not what I said?
2006.
Yeah, 2016, Penn State won the Big 12 or
Big Ten, yeah.
Big Ten, and they did not go, but Ohio State did with a loss.
Okay, so that's what happened. Okay. And they got whipped by Clemson. They got shut out, did they not?
Do not know that.
Or it was like 33-3. They got whipped by Clemson. Yeah. That's all I know. So it's stuff like that where I think Penn State should have still gone in because they had a good year. They had, I think, 2 losses, and they had a good win in the Big Ten championship game. I think right now with the 4 teams, there's some of these conferences that, I mean, the championships don't really mean anything, and you have good teams that are going into it, but they're still getting left out. And I think if you have 6 teams, you can have your conference winners, and then you can have one of those non-Power 5 teams just to say, hey, throw them in there because they've been begging to have one of those teams in there. And I think it'd be fun just to throw them in and see what they do. Or throw in a good team that's in one of these Power 5 conferences and put them in that 6th spot.
But can I ask you a question about that, Justin?
Yeah.
So you're saying have the conference champions of the Power 5 all get an automatic bid?
Yep.
And then have like one basically wild card?
Yeah, have a wild card, yeah.
Would that wild card be like it could also be Power 5, or would that be like no, it's group of top, we're one group of 5
it could also be Power 5 So
okay.
It's no exception, yeah.
So you're talking about only 6 teams. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about
6 teams will make it, yeah.
Okay, so my question is, how would you do the 6 teams? Because I'm going to talk about this as well. How would you do the 6 teams? Would you give 1 and 2 a bye? How would you do it?
Yeah, so 1 and 2 is going to have a bye, and then the 3rd ranked team will play the 6th ranked team, and then the 4th ranked team will play the 5th ranked team. Then the winner of the 3-6 matchup will play the I think the number 2 team. Either that, the number 1 team. And then the 4 and 5 winner will play the number 2 team.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I would like to see. I don't know if this will ever happen. This is just my idea. I'd like to see. I think the next step will probably be 6 teams.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's going to happen. Hopefully soon. But I mean, that's something I would like. I think the conference championship should mean a little more. Because I like what they do with college basketball. The conference championship actually means something, and you get thrown. It's an automatic bid if you win the championship, and you at least get a chance. I mean, a lot of those teams that win the conference championship aren't going to win the whole thing, but they're still. That's what makes the March Madness fun. I've always loved that.
All right, Aaron.
Alrighty. So, regardless of what happens, I will even go. I've been very strong on that it needs to be expanded. I'm very passionate about this. But no matter what happens, because I think it could stay 4 teams and satisfy me, but they have to do uniform scheduling. They have to get rid of people playing nobody teams. And a lot of the theories on how to fix the playoff include, giving Group of 5 teams chances. And I agree. Some of them should have chances because at the end of the day, there's only so much that a kid, like, if I'm on a UCF team, I hate to use them because they're cringy, but at the end of the day, I still think they deserved a chance. I'm not saying that I thought they would win. I'm not saying that I would ever put money against them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that they should at least get a chance to prove that they can play. And by it only being 4 teams, they never got a chance. Because those kids on that team, they're missing out on playing for a national championship, and it's nothing that they can control. And I get that they should be punished for having such an awful schedule, but then again, even if they would have scheduled Power 5s, they still only have, 2 or 3 that they could have scheduled, and then the rest of their schedule is still going to be junk. And if they schedule those Power 5s 5 years in advance, like we scheduled Florida State for Florida State's all of a sudden awful, so that could mean nothing. That could mean the same as a Group of 5 win.
Yeah.
So, they've got to be given their chance. And a lot of these say, like a lot of people for that 8-team playoff right now say it should be the Power 5, the 5 conference championships, 1 Group of 5, and then 2 at large. Why? Like, what if there's 2 undefeated Group of 5 teams? Yeah, they play nobody, but I just think they're getting screwed. So there has to be uniform scheduling, but you can't do that and include everybody. Everybody's not going to be able to have good schedules if you do uniform scheduling. So either you're going to have to keep it how it is and expand the playoff, or you could keep the playoff how it is and make Group of 5, I guess, a whole nother 1AA again. Or, because they've got to be able to play for something. What's the point?
Yeah.
And, what's the point in them playing? They can't compete for national champions.
That's what I'd personally like to see. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'd like to just see a Group of 5 playoff. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't want to see that because they say, well, we matter just as much as the Power 5, put us in there with the Power 5.
There's 129 FBS schools. 129. There's no way that you're going to get the 4 best teams every year. There's no way. Without expanding. Especially if you have all these Group of 5 teams playing nobodies that don't get respect for their schedule as they should. I agree with that. If you play nobodies, you shouldn't, get that respect. But you should be able to get a chance to prove that even though you play nobodies, you can still compete. And they did that when they beat Auburn that year. That's another thing we're going to talk about. I'm going to lightly touch on bowl games, but I think football is a very emotional game, and you have to have something to play for. And I believe very strongly in kids are going to the bowl games either way. If they have if you lose one game and you don't go to the national championship, it's not like, oh, I got to win this next game so I can go to this bowl over this bowl. You don't care. And when you get there, you're having a good time. You don't care. So, I will. So, the UCF win over Auburn, it proves that they could play with Auburn. But I'm not putting a lot on that because
I wouldn't.
LSU beat them the other. Yeah, I bet you wouldn't.
Not with that beat up, terrible coached Auburn team.
Yeah, that's what I would say too if I lost to UCF. Anyways, but LSU beat them the next year. But how do we know that UCF was not pissed that they went 2 years without losing a game, beating an SEC team, and still not getting a chance to play for a national championship? So anyways,
I think it's fair.
I bet you do. I went a little overboard on that, but I wanted to get that out of the way. Schedule, you have to have a consistent schedule, but you can't have both. You can't have a Group of 5 teams getting a chance, and you can't have scrappy schedules and both of them coinciding. It just doesn't happen.
I think the only problem with the uniform scheduling is Alabama's already come out and said nobody wants to play them. So are they gonna? Is there gonna be some kind of regulations?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is the NCAA has to regulate it.
Oh, the NCAA is sure as heck ain't gonna do that.
That's my point. So, so if that's not going to happen, then they have to expand the playoff because now more people are unproven. So therefore, they have to be given a chance.
Just to say one quick thing, I think the one big con I see with expanding the playoff is the bowl games are going to mean less and less the more you expand.
They already do. I mean, they already mean.
Like,
and yeah, that's the thing.
Games?
They already do.
You're
Yeah,
about, like, the Birmingham Bowl. No one cares about it already.
I'm just saying, like these like the Orange Bowl or Fiesta Bowl, like those bowls that I used to love to watch those when it was just the BCS National Championship game. But I mean, now it's like they don't really mean as much as they used to.
And we're fans of these games. I mean, I think all three of us.
Game ever.
I think all three of us watch just about every single bowl game we possibly can. I know usually there's only one or two I miss.
I don't care what bowl it is, and if I'm a kid playing, I care about one thing. Even when it was the BCS, I don't care what bowl I'm in. If I'm good enough to be playing for a national championship and I have one loss, I don't care that I'm playing in a Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl. I don't care. Yeah. I'm there for the experience. I'm going to experience it either way, but I'm not going to play harder for it. Like, it's just...
I just don't think the bowl...
I'm going to get, my swag bag or whatever the heck they call it, and I'm going to have, a great experience with my teammates and get free stuff and party a little bit. And, at the end of the day, the bowls don't matter already. I think they're cool because of those experiences. But what bowl is what means nothing to me, especially if I'm not playing in a national championship.
Well, that's how it is now because of the playoff. But I think before it did mean a lot to some of these teams to go to a Rose Bowl or
like playing in the Rose Bowl is pretty dope. But at the end of the day, it's the same. It's on the same scale as a Sugar Bowl and a Cotton Bowl and whatever. If it's not the
I think I disagree with that. Rose Bowl would be higher than a Sugar Bowl or Fiesta Bowl, in my opinion.
Well, I think that these bowl games do still matter. It depends on who you are. So
it's not as much.
So, like, in 2011 when Alabama went to the Capital One Bowl, that game meant nothing to them. They won, and they won big. It didn't matter to them. But then you take UAB going to the Boca Raton Bowl, they were living it up. That was living the dream. So I think it just kind of depends who you are, how much... I guess kind of how entitled you are.
Yeah, but see, UAB wasn't good enough to play for a national championship, is my point.
Right.
So it meant a lot more for them.
Yeah.
But, I'm talking about at the end of the day what really matters. Yeah, so. Anyways, uniform scheduling, if it's up to me, my ideal thing is 6 teams. I did this all the way back to 1999, which Nick did not see. The notes he's talking about is only till 2014.
Oh, my gosh.
Because that's the playoff, because that's what people will care about. But I did all the way back to 1999 just to make sure it was consistent, and that's still the modern era. It's the first year of the BCS.
Sure.
Anyways, there's 6 teams that I thought were good. There are 5 to 6 teams that I thought were good enough each year to win a national championship if they were given a chance.
Auburn.
Okay. Yeah, like that. So, my ideal thing is 6, but I do not think it will happen. I do not think 6 will happen. Y'all said you think 6 will happen before 8, and I don't think that because they will make more money off of 8 teams. And it's a lot easier for bracket-wise. You don't have anybody, with a bye week or anything. They're going to make more money. It's going to be more fair. I think it's going to go straight to 8 teams if they expand it. I don't see them going to 6, although that is my ideal. Okay, so... For instance, my first example is 2014. This is probably my best example. I'll go ahead and say that because I'm pretty passionate about this. So the 4 that went that year was Bama, Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State. Right outside was number 5 Baylor and number 6 TCU.
Right.
Baylor's only loss, they went 11-1, was to West Virginia. Early in the season at West Virginia. Not a great loss. Gonna go ahead and say that. Not a great loss. But Ohio State's loss was to Virginia Tech at home early in the season. Okay.
Yeah.
Then TCU's only loss at number 6, was to Baylor, which is a rival, at Baylor by 3 points. And Ohio State got in over them, and TCU was not able to play for a national championship.
So a little
Well,
context.
okay, here's-
wait a second. A little context to that scenario.
There
That
was no
the
Big 12
year-
championship.
That was the year the Big 12 decided we're going to have co-champions because they wanted to get on both in. And I think the only reason Ohio State got in, and this is not fair. Don't quote me as saying this is fair at all. But I think the only reason that Ohio State jumped them is because they said, well, we're going to make a lesson out of the Big 12. We're going to show, hey, don't be trying to pull sneaky tricks on us. I don't think that's right at all. I think they should have still picked the top 4 teams. But, yeah, just a little context to what you were saying. Anyways, that's my personal theory. It may not be true.
BS, because they proved in years later that the conference championship didn't mean as much.
Sure.
So that's my number one. Like, Baylor with 1 loss to West Virginia earlier this season, and then TCU losing to their rival by 3 points at their place. And it's not just their rival, it's number 5 in the country.
Yeah.
That just, it needs to be expanded. That can't happen again. It needs to be expanded. And Baylor should be able to play in it as well. So my 6 for 2014 would be Bama, Oregon, FSU, Ohio State, just the same 4, and then you just continue with 5 and 6 at TCU. 2015, 4 that went were Clemson, Bama, Michigan State, and Oklahoma. Number 5 was Iowa. Their only loss was to Michigan State by 3 points.
Yeah.
Number 6 was Ohio State. Now, their loss was also to Michigan State, also by 3 points. And I feel like they were both good enough to play in the national championship.
That's the year.
That one loss happened.
In the
one
Big
of them
Ten
happened in the
Big Ten
very
championship
early-
game.
Yeah, one of them happened. I believe it was Ohio State that happened in the Big Ten, and I believe
No, that was-
I didn't write it down.
That was Michigan
Or
State
Iowa.
beat Iowa that year.
Okay,
the
and
Big
then
Ten.
one of them lost early. Anyways, I don't think one loss should keep you from playing a national championship if it's a good loss.
Especially if
Even
you lose
most-
in the Big Ten championship game.
Even in most, and if it's a bad loss. So, I didn't say this at first, but I'm going to go back up and say this. You mentioned that by expanding the playoffs, it would make the regular season mean a little less.
Right.
And I agree to some extent. And then I heard this point of view, and I cannot remember where I heard it because I've researched this a lot. But someone said everybody talks about college football being unique and the fact that the regular season matters. Every game matters. And then they stopped and said, until you lose one. And then if you think that you are good enough to play for a national championship, but you slip up 1 week and you lose to a really good team, then all of a sudden your season doesn't matter because you have nothing to play for. What are you going to play for? The Orange Bowl again? Like I talked about, I don't care. If I think I'm good enough to play for a national championship, I'm not going to be satisfied with a bowl game when I lose to a top 5 opponent by 3 points at their house,
Sure.
So I thought that point of view was pretty unique because that was one of my cons in expanding it, was that the regular season wouldn't mean more, or wouldn't mean as much. But I think it actually kind of balances out because now you have these one-loss teams that can still make it without getting crazy and, letting 4 lost teams like the NFL, something like that. Like, obviously that's too far gone. But I think this would be a happy medium where 1-loss teams can slip up to a rival at home that's number 5 in the country and then still be able to win a national championship. So that's my point of view on that. 2016 was probably my worst argument for this. And Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Washington were the 4.
Right.
And then you have Michigan at 10-2. So they lost to Iowa by 1 point at Iowa, like the second game of the season or something like that. And then they lost to Ohio State in double overtime at Ohio State, their rival, which made it into the playoff in double overtime by 3. They lost to them by 3. Like, I mean, that's 2 losses right there that if they were in, like, I don't like 2 lost teams, but when I think about this, and I think if Michigan gets in to a 16 playoff with those 2 losses, and then they avenge their loss to Ohio State, and then they beat 2 more teams in that top 5, and that's their only 2 losses, and they win the national championship, I'd be like, that's fair enough.
But
every other team that year had a loss except for Bama. Bama was 13-0, and Clemson wound up beating them.
Right.
But Clemson lost to Pitt, which was their rival. Ohio State lost to Penn State that year, because this is the year when Penn State won the Big Ten.
And this is the year Penn State should have made it.
Well, we'll see about that. And then
over Ohio State.
Washington lost to USC, and then Michigan has these 2 losses. So if you throw Michigan in with those and they come out and they win, I would be okay with it. Like, it wouldn't make me mad that they got in and then won, because they beat 3 top 5 teams, and their only losses to their rival at home by 3 points, and then they messed up once at Iowa early in the season by 1 point, which is, it was like a 13-14 game. That wouldn't make me mad at all if they won.
But does a team deserve that chance, do you think? Just because they think they can compete for it, they still lost 2 games. Do they deserve to be able to have a second chance when some of these other teams maybe didn't?
Well, I think they should, just because I forgot to say this as well earlier. If it was, I would want ideally the 6 teams, but also I would want it to vary. Like, if you think there's multiple teams that do deserve, then it should be. It should be able to vary year to year. But that will obviously never happen. They will have to have it set in stone for money purposes.
Yeah, because people will be buying their spots into the playoff.
So, like I said, 2016 was probably the worst case against against my theory, and that's because the 4 that got in are the 4 who should have been in, and then Michigan is at number 5 with 2 losses. Oklahoma's at number 6 with 2 losses. Penn State's at 7 with 2 losses. And then number 8 is Western Michigan. That's 13-0, but they're Western Michigan.
Yeah.
So that's my. So ideally, even if we went to a 6 or 18 playoff, a year like this, it would just go down. It would go down to 4 teams, because they're the only 4 teams that deserve it, that have the record. That, anyways, but that's never going to happen. So I'm going off of 6 teams, and at the end of the day, if it was those 6 teams, it wouldn't make me mad if Michigan won. And I think I forgot to say, but Oklahoma would be my 6th that year, and they won the Big 12. They were 10-2. They lost to number 15 Houston the very first game of the season, and then they lost to number 3 Ohio State at. I think it was at Ohio State. I'm not sure. Don't quote me.
It was at Oklahoma.
But yeah, so.
Okay. So
if Oklahoma joins as a Big 12 championship with their only loss to Ohio State and to Houston, which was ranked number 15, the first game of the season, and then they beat 3 top 5 teams with those only 2 losses, wouldn't make me mad. I would be like, okay, they deserve it. But like you said, they don't deserve it at that point. Like, I agree, they shouldn't be in a playoff. But when you have teams like Baylor and TCU the previous years who are sitting at 5 and 6 and should be in a playoff, then I think you should expand it.
Okay, so just to recap, all our thoughts are, mine is keep it. In a perfect world, this is. Okay, so mine would be keep it. Justin, yours is a 16 playoff, correct?
Yep.
And then Aaron, yours would be 6, but
mine would
that's
be
very
6,
loose.
But
you can change it.
Mine would be a 6, and you could vary it down to 4 or bring it up to 8, but it should never be more than 8. I'm very adamant about that. Like, 8's too much, and I'll get to that in a second.
Well, let's speed through it because we're getting late into the episode.
But yeah, 2017 was Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia, Bama. Those 4 all went, and then you have 5. Wisconsin with the only loss to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship by 6 points. I mean, and then you have UCF that went 12-0. Once again, if you had 6 teams and UCF went in at 12-0 and then came out, I'd be like, okay, I'll shut up talking about UCF. Or if Wisconsin went in and beat 3 teams after their only loss was to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, then I'd be like, okay, they deserve it. So that's my point. Y'all know what happened in 2008. Let me quickly get into why I don't fully believe in the 18 playoff really quick. So the 18 playoff I don't like for one reason, and that is because most of the people want the Conference 5 champion, the 5 conference champions. They want a group of 5 team, and then they want 2 at large. There is not, like in 2014, there was not a group of 5 champion or a group of 5 team that was even in the top 25, like even remotely close. And in 2015, there was Houston at 12-1 with their only loss to UConn, but they had like 4 ranked wins. You know, that's fine. And then you have UCF the next 2 years, and then you have Western Michigan, and then you have an unbeaten Western Michigan, and then you have UCF. Like the group of 5 is, I don't think that should be a variable. I think it should just be the 3 best teams. If you think the group of 5 teams unbeaten and they could be one of the 3 best teams, then you should put them in. Okay, that's my point there. And then I don't think conference champions should get an automatic bid. That's a load of horse. Because here's why. Last year, for example, do you know who Ohio State played in the Big Ten championship?
Yeah, I know who they played, Northwestern.
Yeah, do you know what Northwestern's record was?
It was probably like 6-4.
8-4.
Yep.
If they somehow pull off that win, they're not one of the best teams. They should
just look at Clemson and Pitt last year in the ACC.
Yeah, there should
But see,
no
the thing
way
is,
should
though,
they be in the
those
playoffs.
teams will never win though in those kind of games.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it was
what
never
They do,
close.
though. They do sometimes.
What
no
happens
Do
such thing all the time.
sometimes.
Then what are you going to do? Like, okay, let's let them play for a national championship. Like, no, you
Well,
shouldn't
heck,
be able to
if
do
that team beats Ohio State, then Ohio State shouldn't be in the playoff. Let's be real.
That's
But why
not
should that
true,
other team?
Because what if Ohio State's undefeated, they slip up one time in a championship game?
And it's to Northwestern, then yeah, that shouldn't be in the
Okay.
playoff.
That's
I
like
mean, it's
saying
that
Alabama
simple.
shouldn't have, like, that's just, I don't agree. So you're saying that Georgia shouldn't play for a national championship this year no matter what happens because they lost to South Carolina. So if they
I mean,
win
that's
the
a
SEC,
good- that's
they beat
a-
Alabama, they beat Auburn, or they beat LSU or Alabama in the SEC championship, and they beat Auburn, and then they go and they win it all, they don't deserve it because they lost to South Carolina.
Well, then
That's
you
what
got to
you're
look
saying.
at all the other teams though that's ahead of them and look at the one-loss teams. Who has the better loss?
Yeah, but that
Georgia has an
shouldn't
awful
determine
loss
who
right now.
The better loss shouldn't determine who the better team is.
That's just
Is
how
what
they're
my
going to do
point.
it. That's how they
Okay,
look
well, I'm
at
telling
it.
you how it should be. Is my
How
point.
it should
So-
be will
and
never
then
be.
2018 last year as well. Washington won the Pac-12, and they went 9-3.
I mean,
think-
but Washington's
when we're
always
getting
a
into
solid
three-loss
team, though.
teams, what?
You know, Washington's always got a solid team.
Okay, that has nothing to do with.
Yeah,
last
but I
year
would
when
be,
they
I
won
would be, I would be fine with them making it
with
if they
3
won
losses?
the Pac-12. That's fine. Depends on who the 3 losses are.
I tried to find that, but I couldn't at what I was looking at because I was rushing to finish this before the episode, and I was looking at a thing that I could go to their schedules by the top 25, and they were not even in the top 25. So I imagine they're not that great.
I'm just going to make the argument of there's a reason people love March Madness and the automatic bids is it's fun to watch and see these teams make a playoff.
Yeah,
I
but
think
the
it would
best
just
team
be
doesn't always win March
it would be
Madness.
absolute madness just to see these teams win a conference championship and just end up making it. I think that would be fun to watch.
Well, then at that point, why don't we do 64 team playoff?
Well, let's talk about.
Heck, let's do
talk
it.
about some of the other scenarios, some of the more wilder ones that people are throwing in because we're getting real late to the episode. We need to wrap it up anyways. So, is there any interest in you guys seeing? I know, Aaron, you said you don't want to see anything more than an 8-team playoff.
Absolutely no.
Would you be interested in seeing a 12, 16, or 32 team playoff, Justin?
I think the only way you could do it is either you do 8 and you is the max and you keep it like how you're doing where the regular season means a lot, or you just go full blown 64 and I want either one or the other. I don't want anything in between because then I might as well go watch NFL.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't really know how to say, because 16 teams would be interesting just because I think it would be fun to watch all these playoff games, but then the regular season wouldn't mean anything at all. And then, like you said, it would be the NFL. But I think, yeah, a good balance. I like 6 teams just because you can choose those conference winners and then you have a wild card team. So I like the 6. Maybe you can move it to 8 because then you could do the 5 conference winners and then 3 wild cards. That would be fun to see too, but I think the more you expand it, the less everything's going to mean. So I like 6.
Justin, do you know? I know Aaron knows this, but Justin, do you know how many teams Mike Leach would like for the playoff to hold?
Wait, what'd you say?
Do you know how many teams that Mike Leach proposes the playoff should
Probably
feature?
64.
64 teams.
Yeah.
Yep,
I mean, I'm not
64.
surprised since he's losing games just about every other week to sucky teams, so he'd probably love to have a 64-team playoff.
I mean,
That wouldn't make any sense. What would you play? 5 regular season games, and then the rest is a playoff?
I guess so.
It's dumb.
I said recently that I want to see a 129-team playoff. So
Every game's a play. Every game's a playoff game.
Every game is a playoff game for every FBS team. You lose your first game, and your season's over. You don't get to play another game till the next year.
Now, that's not a bad idea.
Yes, it is.
I think that would actually make it to where every single game matters so much.
The season would matter a whole lot.
Yeah.
I reckon.
So, I mean, that would be fun.
Just think about these initial games that you'd have with like Auburn and Oregon and one of their seasons just over.
That's what I'm saying. You lose that game, see ya.
It's over.
Nice knowing you.
Get ready for next year.
But then the problem is nobody's going to be scheduling anybody. It's just going to be all these cupcakes you play.
But even then, at some point, you're gonna have to run into
at
these
some
tough
point,
teams.
yeah. Depending on what your bracket looks like.
I wish they do that for just like 1 year. Just like, hey, we're just gonna.
It'd be
try this
absolute
out.
madness.
People would be going nuts.
Yeah. But I think my big thing is the conference championship should mean more. Because, I mean, if you're a conference championship winner, then you've done something right. Especially in the Power 5 conference.
Or other teams have done something wrong, which is how Northwestern got to the.
But they didn't
Big
win,
Ten
so it
championship.
didn't matter. So what I'm saying
But
is,
what if they did? So
if they
you
did
can't
win, then hey, let's throw them in there because they won the
why?
conference.
But they don't. Okay. They're not
Fight,
one of the best
fight,
teams, though.
fight.
Well, anyways, before we wap this up, because I am kind of tired of talking about this, but
Yeah, I'm tired of listening to you.
my point was, there's several years, I think like 3 out of the last 5, so the majority was if they did put all 5 conference champions, they did put a group of 5 team in, and they did 2 at large. I did the next 2 ranked, so like 7 and 8 or 6 and 7 or whatever it was, depending on where the group of 5 team was. I agree that would be a good 8-team playoff. My problem is the 2 years where the conference champion, or who could have been the conference champion, has 3 or more losses. I don't agree with that. So if they did that, I would be fine with it, but they would have to say conference champions as long as they don't have any more than 2 losses.
I might be able to agree with you on that.
That would be my caveat. So if they did 8 teams like that, they don't do strictly a group of 5 team. They do it to the 3 best teams other than the conference champions, and then they do conference champions that have 2 or less losses. I would be fine with it. So ideally 6. 8's not gonna break my heart as long as they do it correctly.
Well, what we'll do is I will post these on Facebook. I'll do my Keep It 4 team, Justin 6, and then Aaron 6 on a scaling, like a scale. So you sliding scale.
flexible.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
the scale will never happen just because of.
But just in a perfect world, I'm just gonna.
In a perfect world, it would.
So we'll put those up. You can vote and tell us which one of us is right, which one of us is stupid. You might decide we're all stupid after listening to this. That's completely fine. But let's go ahead and wrap this thing up and bring it on home. What do you guys say?
I think that's great.
Justin, I'm always the one wrapping it up. Why don't you try to wrap it up off the top of your head? I have a cheat sheet. Why don't you try to do it this week?
What am I wrapping up? Thank you.
I just want to see if
thank
you can do
you.
it.
Thank you, Tyrone Prothro, for doing the interview with our beloved. You're still alive, so I don't know why I'm saying that. Our.
What are you talking about?
He's talking about me.
Sorry.
He really
I
likes me.
meant to say our dear Nick because he did a great job with the interview.
Yeah, sorry that
thank
you
you.
get to meet me, Tyrone. I know.
Thank
I know
you.
That breaks your heart.
Thank you to all those who listen. I'm disappointed in those who don't listen because you should be. Or maybe
You're not mad. You're just disappointed. This
Maybe
is way too good.
but-
You're gonna have to start closing out the show every week.
thank you to our sponsors. Who's our sponsor for this episode?
This episode is Metal Central in Jasper.
Okay, thank you, Metal Central, for putting your money into this program. I hope it pans out for you.
That sounds terrible. It's like, thanks for giving us your money. I hope you actually stay afloat since you're spending your money on stupid things like us. That's what that sounds like. This sounds
Send
terrible.
us,
Give us a better. We're better than that, Justin. Give us a better endorsement than that.
Thank you for. We really appreciate it. You will get your money's worth out of us. Nick has done a lot of great work by getting.
How about we just say, hey, give Metal Central a call for all your metal roofing needs.
Yeah. Metal Central does great things out there.
Please go ahead. Let's move on from the ad.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for. Thank you for following us on Facebook. I hope
Did
you
you say thank
respond
you,
to
Gus?
our. No, I said thank you for
Gus
following
has
us on
done a lot
Facebook.
for y'all.
Where can
Yes.
people find us at on social media, Justin?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube. You can find us on what's that social media thing
Patreon.
that starts with a P? Patreon. We have some new videos up of us playing video games. And
It's
just
at
messing around.
TGM Pod, by the way.
Yeah, at TGM Pod. Yeah.
What about our website? Tell them about that.
We also have a website that you can easily access the podcast. You can listen
can
to it on there.
access
I did it one time and it was so easy. Like I just clicked right on it and I could listen to it right there.
It's pretty easy.
You clicked- you visited our website one time.
It has only been once.
Oh my gosh.
What can people do, Justin, if they want to support the show?
You can send in a $5 donation to each of our names.
I was meaning more toward the subscribe option. Maybe subscribe, leave a review.
You could like and follow the Facebook page. You could subscribe. You could follow us on Instagram and Twitter. You could follow Nick at Nosaurus. That's like NORR something.
NORRISOSAURUS.
That's it. You can call us anytime you want.
Don't call me.
I don't think.
I'm not put. You can say your phone number. Do not put my phone number on this.
Oh, don't forget. We might have a trivia Saturday. Do we have trivia Saturday?
Yeah, we're doing trivia. We do trivia every
All right,
every
so-
Wednesday. Yeah, every weekend.
Comment on those posts.
Us at 205-317-0272.
No, you can't. You wish.
I'll
So
bleep it out.
there's
I'll bleep it out.
there's a trivia this Saturday. Make sure you comment on the post so you can win a great prize. We always appreciate the fans that are playing the trivia. Y'all do a great job.
This
And-
week it's an umbrella. You can win an Alabama or Auburn umbrella. Get out of the rain. It's been raining recently.
That's right, yeah. So it'll be a great umbrella. I mean, it's a great one you can show off to your friends. So, I mean,
You're
I know
a
that.
natural born salesman. I tell you what, you can sell anything.
I mean, I'm kind of going. This is going on for way too long. I'm trying to think of anything else.
don't.
I can
That's
add.
all. That's everything. You did it.
Watch the Alabama LSU game. It's going to be a great one. Auburn's on a bye. Thank gosh.
When will we be back?
We will be back Sunday morning, bright and early. Then we'll
Yeah.
have a special next week as well. Tune in for that because we'll probably have a special guest, and he'll be great, whoever it is. Actually, we do know who it is.
No, we're just not saying it yet in case it falls through.
Yeah, that's right. We know who it is. He's probably a great dude. We look forward to it. I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of the week. Nick, do you have any final thoughts?
You spoke my mind. You read it.
Okay. Aaron, any final thoughts?
No, I'm good.
That's great. I'm glad you don't because I'm kind of tired of speaking right now. So have a great rest of the week. Watch the game Saturday. Hope you'll have a great time. Tune in Sunday for another great episode.
Don't forget your
War
new...
Eagle anyways.
There you go. War Eagle anyway. Make sure you didn't forget your new catchphrase.
And the end.
I need a catchphrase. Y'all both got one.
You can say, "See you later, suckers."
I don't like that. Well,
All right.
See,
Well, I don't
how
really
about-
care what you like.
I'll work
What about
Adios.
see you later? See you later, alligator. How about that one?
But it does sound like you.
let's end
Yeah,
it there.
that one's pretty good. Do I need to
Adios.
pause this yet, or are we still talking?
If you're still talking, are you ready to pause it?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure because I had ended my spiel there, so I was sure we were just ending it right there.
I just went ahead and ended it.
I mean, I've still been going, so I just wanted to check.
All right, everybody hit the stop button now.